Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the season finale of the G-Force Grand National Series. This is the Wilkes County 150 at the historic North Wilkesboro Raceway. 150 laps here tonight. The championship was already decided last week at Dover, but we still got to find out who's going to win the final race of the season. I'm Seth Cole alongside Samuel Dyer, and Sam, somewhat smaller field, but certainly looks like we're in for some good racing at this historic racetrack.
Yeah, North Wilkesboro, one of the most unique tracks that these drivers are going to be racing. I mean, coming into turn number 1 and 2, you're going downhill, and then you go uphill slightly into 3 and 4. But do you want to let the audience know this race could be delayed slightly? We're waiting for admins to be fully loaded into the lobby so we know exactly what's going to go on. So this race could be delayed, and also qualifying could possibly be delayed. But still, an amazing year that we've had so far with Gerald Campbell becoming our champion here for this season. And quite a wild season overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Last week, Gerald Campbell picking up his 3rd win of the season. That was enough to seal the deal. And so here tonight, no driver has had 3 wins this season. We've had a couple of 2-time winners. Shane Tyrion was 1, and Gerald Campbell was 1 going into Dover last week. He now jumps to the top of that statistic as far as wins. Obviously, I think the goal for him is to go out there and win another one.
Yeah, I mean, he is looking quick. This 25 machine came out during practice, was the 2nd fastest, and was going to be beaten by Blaine Atkin, which, I mean, Blaine has always been quick every race. It's kind of the consistency that the 05 has been lacking, but certainly Gerald Campbell has been the favorite for getting the pole position throughout the whole entire season as well. Now, our favorite to win all these races.
We'll have to see if indeed that's going to be the case for him, if that's his goal. We're going to be talking to him in just a few moments as you alluded to. We're waiting for everybody to get loaded here into the session. But here at this track, I mean, you mentioned one of the very strange features of this short track. North Wilkesboro opened up its doors in 1949, so it's nearly as old as the sport of NASCAR itself, which, of course, was established in 1948. And one of the unique things, you touched on it there, where you actually go uphill on the backstretch and you go downhill on the front stretch. So how do drivers approach that when they're going into turn 1 and turn 3?
Yeah, I mean, going into turn number 1, you got to use a little bit more braking to try to slow up just because of gravity and it pushing the car down. And then going up the hill, you got to be on the throttle and hope that you're not spinning coming out of these corners. I think the loose sensation out of the corners is going to be the biggest issue for these drivers. But certainly coming up into turn number 3, these drivers are going to have to make sure that they are hitting their marks, because they can slow down pretty much a little bit quicker than coming into 1 and 2. So those braking zones slightly different on both ends of the track.
And obviously, with this track being a little under 0.8 of a mile, they're not going to be carrying super high speeds. But if they do wreck, this track closed up in 1996. No safer barriers were invented at that time. You've got almost literally concrete barriers on the outside. You've got steel guardrails on the inside. So with no fast repairs to lean on, if you get involved in a wreck, it could tear your race car up.
Yeah, and also because it's an older track, I mean, on the backstretch, there's a little bit of a hitch in the middle of the straightaway. So if you find yourself being put into the outside wall, you can be finding an opening and then right into an angled wall that you were not expecting to hit. So this track is going to be extremely tricky for a lot of these drivers, but certainly an entertaining one. For 150 laps, this track could go green for a lot of these drivers just because we're having a smaller field than what we've been seeing for most of the season.
Well, why don't we go down trackside here and see if we can get a word with our champion of the series and 3-time winner, Gerald Campbell, find out some of his pre-race strats for tonight's 150 lapper. Hey, Gerald, it's Sam and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yes, I do.
Well, man, I mean, we talked to you last week. You had a lot of confidence coming into tonight's race, said you love this racetrack. 150 laps here tonight, but can you do it from the pole?
Well, we're going to have to see. I got to get pole first. So, it's going to be Blaine was pretty fast in practice there. It was a very loose setup. So it's going to be interesting to find out when you got a loose setup, when you're going to go out to do this qualifying, it's who doesn't make the mistake. With a tight setup, it's just, you know what you got. It's hard to really make a mistake. The times are all going to be very close. Loose setup is going to be the opposite. You're going to see times all which way. So you have no idea when the fast lap is going to come, because it's who's going to set it up. And when it comes to North Wilkesboro and looseness, it's going to be depending on what bump you hit. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting for qualifying. I think they're going to be going out here very shortly, and I always like to make sure I do a good fast lap in practice, because I like to see what everyone does on the racetrack before I go do my thing. So, yeah, hopefully I can get up on pole. Hopefully I can end the season the way I want it to, which is just be on top.
Yeah, I mean, Gerald, we're at the older track if you're at North Wilkesboro, and most of the time during qualifying, we've been seeing a lot of drivers. Seems like once we get later on into qualifying, there's a little bit of a pressure. You guys were the fastest during practice. Do you feel like there's pressure to get the pole position just because you guys are always up top on the leaderboards during practice?
I had a little bit of pressure earlier in the season when I had 5 straight poles in a row trying to go for each one, because they offered me up like, I think it was like $100 or $200 if I got pole for every single race. And I think I was making them sweat when it came to the 6th race and I was going for pole again. So I was more nervous for that. Now that everything's wrapped up, if I don't get pole, it's not a big deal. I'm looking forward to tonight's event. So, I don't think there's going to be as much pressure on me for this qualifying pole as maybe as some in the past. This track is, you can make passes. You can work your way through it. It's not one of those tracks that you're going to have to really have to, stay in line. You could definitely be able to work the back bumper of someone to get around them. So, yeah, if I start up front, easier on me. If I start in the back, it just means I get to pass more people.
Gerald, obviously, congratulations on winning the championship. We already touched on that last week coming into this week. But at the same time, with the championship decided, everybody wants to finish out the season with a victory. And so are you expecting here tonight that drivers to go out maybe with a little bit more of a different mentality? Everybody that has already won trying to win again, drivers that were close to winning this season and haven't yet trying to get their first win of the season. Do you think it's kind of a go for broke attitude tonight for these drivers, since there's not really much on the line but a checkered flag?
You guys remember what happened last week? There's a lot of angry people still angry at each other. So I think you're going to see, this is a short track, and they got angry at Dover. You're going to see patience go out the window. There's no patience anymore. It's going to be just, you're in my way, buddy. I need you to move. And that's how it's going to go. So, I mean, this is a tough track to try to put a block on somebody, because it is so looseness and so much, that back end sliding around, that it's very easy for someone to just kind of give you a little yeet and you go up the racetrack very easily. So, it's going to be interesting to see who owes someone a favor, if you know what I mean. So hopefully I was nice to everyone this season. I don't think anyone's going to give me any breaks today. They didn't give me any breaks last week whenever I was trying to lock things up. So I don't expect it anymore here, especially now that they know I got nothing to lose and they got nothing to lose. So, it's going to, like I said, it may not be a stacked 40-car field, but the racing is going to be intense no matter what. So I'm looking forward to tonight's event.
Yeah, I mean, Gerald, just looking at the field, we know that Blaine and yourself are going to be probably on top of the board. Is there anyone else besides you two that you're kind of worried about could be posing a threat during today's race?
I mean, you're going to have the normal people coming up there. You're going to have Hank trying to work some strategy. You're going to have, John Weitendorf is probably one of the best at saving his tires and just not getting any damages, not getting himself into predicaments. And that's why he was one of my biggest competitors this season. Was you're going to have to be on your game around him. So I expect him near the end of the race. You may not see him in the middle part, you may not see him in the beginning, but at the end, you're going to definitely see him near the end. And you got your fast guys. You got Kyle Johnson, you got Bo Brady. Those guys are really fast. They go hard. They try to pit early and get out front and lead it. There's just, every person here has their own strategy and their own way of racing. And after racing the season, you definitely get the sense of how people run, and that sense of, you can almost predict when a caution comes out, who's going to pit, who's going to save their tires, who's going to do this, who's going to do that. And it's just like playing checkers here. Everyone's going to be trying to get the one up on somebody. So it's like I said, it's just depending on how this track and how the cautions lay out. as to who it fits best. And hopefully I do what I did earlier in the season. I can just, put down the best I can and just make it to where it doesn't matter what they do.
Well, Jared, looks like we're getting ready to get qualifying underway here, so we're going to let you go, let you get into the zone to try and see if you can get on the pole position again here tonight en route for maybe your 4th win of the season. Best of luck to you.
Thank you, guys. Can't wait. Have fun.
And we're going to kick things off here with the 14 of Cooper Johnson, a driver that we saw come in around the midway portion of the season, Sam, but definitely made a good impression here up there, racing inside the top 10, it seemed, every single week.
Yeah, certainly has gotten better every single week, and I think we're expecting to see that here today. I think Cooper Johnson, the goal for this 14 machine has to be finish in the top 10, and best option, finish in the top 5.
Right now, looks like he may have had his pit stall ahead of pit road, so it scored him that lap. Now he comes around for his money lap, and he's going to clock in with an 18.799. That'll be the first lap on the board. Cooper Johnson didn't lay down a practice lap here today, so we'll have to see how that stacks up with drivers that had about anywhere from half an hour to 45 minutes of track time in practice.
Jason Hounshell in the 00, now going to be coming around 3 and 4, getting ready for a time. And, Jason did not have the best week last week, hoping for a better one, was caught up in a lot of incidences and not the fastest time, and was close to a sub 19, but a little bit off. Going to be second on the board so far, but certainly a driver to watch out for later on in the race once he figures out this track.
That's going to bring up James Goshen in the 85. Goshen had a couple of finishes here and there inside of the top 15, but a big thing that we've kind of touched on with this 85 car is when he's running well, it just seems like he gets caught up in something in the second half of the race, not of his own doing.
Yeah, and it's a lot of placement error that's been putting this 85 in those unlucky spots, being around the drivers that have just been kind of wreckfests throughout the race. But Goshen, third on the board with a 19.068, but still Cooper Johnson, a great lap time. And Johnson, that could be a lap time that could stick to put him around that 8th place position. Now on track, it's going to be Randy Koking in the 19 machine coming to put his lap down.
Yeah, Randy Koking, I believe he's inside the top 20 in points. A big reason for that is he's run all the races and he's run all the laps. Yes, he's had some hardships along the way, but he's been able to at least survive all the races and finish them out, which is why he's going to be finishing pretty well in the point standings. But right now, 4th of the 4 drivers that have gone out. And speaking of 4, number 4 of James Roth now going to head out onto the track in that Coca-Cola Polar Bear Dale Sr. throwback.
Yeah, Roth has had one of the weirdest, I think, seasons for a lot of these drivers. Has shown times of having a top 5 car, and then other weeks struggling to even finish the race. And we're seeing it here, looseness, sensation. It's exactly what Gerald Campbell was talking about. Seeing it right there is the 4 car, not able to put a lap time down.
So James Roth going to be having to start at the rear of the field. Looks like it's going to bring out the 84. Peyton Hill waiting for the go-ahead by race control. Now finally gets it. Peyton Hill, that's another guy that we've ended up seeing almost like Cooper Johnson. Came in, I believe it was in race 5, and consistently was finishing up inside the top 10. Hit a little bit of a skid around maybe race 9 or 10, but looks like he may be finishing out the season really well. Been one of those under-the-radar drivers.
Yeah, I think right now Hill's got to be thinking just aim for a top 10 finish, and has shown a top 5 speed the last couple of weeks. And certainly can be poised there, but it's that luck and consistency at the end. Coming across the line here, it's going to be good enough. I believe 4th place, yeah. A 19.171, and these times are a lot slower, about 0.3 slower than what some of the drivers were putting down for practice. This is shocking to see, but we'll see with the cars once we get further down the roster, who's going to be putting down those extremely quick times.
Looking at the 5 of AJ DeMarzo, and we were talking with Gerald Campbell. He hit the nail right on the head. Even if you look at our top 3 speeds right now, you got Cooper Johnson up top, then about maybe 0.3 back. Whoa, and actually change your tune. AJ DeMarzo just jumped to the top of the board.
Yeah, DeMarzo, I've been on his case almost all season long of just being placing himself in the wrong situation whenever he goes a lap down. But this is incredible speed from the 5 that we have really not seen all season long. And we'll see if it can carry on into the race. Now it's the 16 of Anthony Graneri on board.
Yeah, prior to DeMarzo going to the top of the leaderboard, it was looking like anywhere from 2 to 0.3 of a second between all drivers in their respective positions. And now by 51 1,000s. DeMarzo currently sits on the pole spot as now Anthony Guarneri, who's actually really been putting together a good second half of the year, trying to close it out here. Through 3 and 4, looked pretty steady. He ran the middle groove, which is something else I was going to touch on. Looks like the fast cars run the middle groove. Some drivers trying to really go way down to the inside. It's not really giving them the exit off the corner like they need. Guarneri right now third on the board with an 18.925.
Jake Allenshell now going to be on track, going to be trying to put a faster lap time down, but it's that loose sensation that Gerald was talking about. That's why we're seeing drivers feeling a little bit more comfortable in the middle of the corner and being about a lane off of what the bottom is. Jake's going to be running extremely low in that 0-2, and there he goes. I believe his time is going to count, which is going to be best for, I believe, third. If it counts, and it's not going to count.
No, I was wondering at the point of impact where it was, and I think it was just before the start-finish line. If it had happened maybe a yard further, he probably would have had that lap time count.
Bo Brady now on track in the 20 machine, and Bo Brady, he's hit that slump as well, trying to get out of the slump, cross the line. This could be good enough for pole, and it is an 18.719.
Bo Brady, of course, finishing in back-to-back second-place finishes before eventually taking a checkered flag at Phoenix. But you're right, trying to take away the slump he's been in, cap off the season with a decent run is Hank Steinmiller. New colors there for the number 63 as he gets a little loose out of turn 4. And he's going to clock in with that little bit of a skid, fourth on the board with an 18.918.
And starting up his time, John Weindorf in the 33 machine. Now going to be on track, and we missed John last week, but Weindorf certainly has shown pace at the short tracks, and I'm expecting him to be a top 3 to a top 5 driver here today. And coming across the line, not good enough for the pole, but should be a top 5 start, fourth on the board with an 18.802.
All right, now I don't know whether to talk or whether to be quiet this week. We tried the other alternative last week, and it didn't seem to work for Kyle Johnson. We'll see if maybe here the stars align here in the season finale for him to be able to lay down a qualifying lap. He's had everything happen to him, from crashes to spins to internet problems coming to the start-finish line. Looks like he's going to make it off turn 4. He's going to lay down a lap time, Sam.
It's going to be a lap time, and it might be the pole, and it is. Wow. 88 on top of the board with an 18.685. The issue is, last week, Kyle made a lot of enemies, and I don't know if the 88 machine is going to finish out this race.
Whoa, Jeff Green, that car got wicked loose going into turn 1. The front end of the car didn't even seem like it wanted to turn. Front tires sliding. That's going to hurt this lap time for the 2.
Yeah, I mean, that's the going down aspect of this track, and it's going to hurt, but there he comes. The 2 machine with a 19.410. Worst time of those that were validated laps. Is not the way that this 2 machine wanted to go. And now on track, it's going to be the 25 machine of Gerald Campbell, our driver's champion. And what a season he's had so far, and trying to capitalize it with this final race of the season.
See him running right up there as high as he can. This is his warm-up lap, trying to get all the speed he possibly can. Let's see how he approaches turn 1.
Going to be trying to run about a lane on the lane higher on entry, hit the apex low, get out, but into the wall. That could be scrubbing off this time. We'll see, though, if this lap time is still validated. Nope, he's going around.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I had to overcorrect it and nose it into the outside wall, and so Gerald Campbell looks like he's going to have to work his way from the back to the front en route to his 4th win of the season, as now that he said maybe a main source of competition here today, our Richmond winner, Blaine Atkin.
Ooh, he's going to be rubbing the wall, just trying to get some more speed, but I'm concerned for Blaine Atkin. He could be quick here, but I'm getting flashes of Nashville. With how loose this setup is looking, Blaine might not want it to be as loose as it is.
See what he does off of 2. Got close to the wall, but did not hit it. Let's see if he can nail 3 and 4. He's trying to beat Kyle Johnson's 18.685. He's going to clock in with...
Ooh, it's going to be close.
625.
Whew, that 0-5 machine is quick, and it's a little bit slower than what practice was, but also the heat was still slightly different for practice here to qualifying, and it's probably going to continue to evolve throughout the race. We'll see if anyone else is eligible to get on track. But Blaine Atkin looking like he's going to be getting our pole position of today. And like I said, I think the loose sensation, like Gerald Campbell was talking about, it is going to be a struggle for a lot of these drivers. You saw a lot of front runners pushing their car to the limit and how loose they were getting.
I think it was Darrell Waltrip coined the phrase, or maybe it was Dale Sr. I'm not exactly sure which one, but one of them said that loose is fast and on the edge of out of control. I think that kind of sums up what we saw there with Blaine Atkin, because there were a couple of moments it looked like he could have easily bobbled, had the car come out from underneath him, got up into the outside wall, but was not in any way going to be denied getting that pole position, and it came 600ths over Kyle Johnson's lap time. And now as these drivers get set to grid here, Sam, I'm looking back here through the short tracks that we've been at this season, and we've got 5 of our previous winners at short tracks in the field here tonight. Richmond winner in Blaine Atkin, Bristol winner in Jeff Green, our USA winner in John Whitendorf, Iowa winner in Christopher Morse Jr., and Dover winner in Gerald Campbell. Do we see any of those 5 double down with a short track winner? Is there somebody else in the field you're looking at that might maybe be able to pick up their first win of the season in the closer?
I think all those are probably favorites to win this. I think that one of the drivers that hasn't gotten a win yet, that is just trying his best to get there, but he's going to probably have to drive pretty aggressive. That's got to be the 88 of Kyle Johnson. That's going to be super aggressive here, and it might be too aggressive. We saw how aggressive the 88 car was last week at Dover and how that kind of backfired at times. And we're going to continue to watch and see how Peyton Hill and Kyle Johnson react with one another. But that was a dynamite, that's ready to explode if those two are close to one another on track.
A couple of drivers think we should keep our eyes on based on the last 2 weeks. Back at Iowa, we end up having Anthony Guarneri out in front for a good portion of that race and finished in the top 5. And last week at Dover, Hank Steinmiller was a key player in that one, battling it out with Gerald Campbell in the second half of that race. So those could be 2 candidates to maybe get their first checkered flag of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give credit to Anthony Guarneri. What a way that this driver has evolved throughout the season. First race of the season, and honestly, the first about 3 weeks of the season, Anthony Guarneri had the pace to run up front, but didn't know how to save his tires. And throughout the season, he's learned how to save the tires a little bit more and be able to stay up front longer and longer each week. I don't know if the 16 has enough here to win this week, but certainly it has been a great evolution for the 16 of Anthony Guarneri on how he's gotten better throughout the season.
You know, when we talked with Gerald Campbell, asked about what the mentality of the drivers is coming into this race with really nothing to lose but a checkered flag. But at the same time, with what we've seen with the setup and the conditions here of North Wilkesboro, it might make them change their tune. Do we see them be aggressive early on, or are they going to kind of tiptoe around this track, kind of wait for the track and the car to come to them?
I think right now Blaine Atkin's going to be going with the strategy of get up front and run away with this thing as fast as possible, like he won at Richmond. For Kyle Johnson, he's going to be trying to get up front and ruffle some feathers. Everyone else, I think they're going to be playing pretty nice. Jeff Green might be a driver in my eyes that could be pretty aggressive. He was aggressive last week at Dover at the start of the race. Could be trying to put himself up front, starting in the back half of the field.
They've got some really fast machines back there. Also, Gerald Campbell in the 25. We'll see how aggressive he's going to be, or will he just kind of slowly and methodically try and pick his way up here to the front, as it's going to be Blaine Atkin and Kyle Johnson leading us down here. The season finale at North Wilkesboro for the G-Force Grand National Series is green.
As the drivers are getting ready to go, this is going to be an interesting one to see for sure. It looks like the 5 not able to get going, and now he's going to be checking up the whole entire outside of the field. But up front, Kyle Johnson, Blaine Atkin taking off, and here comes Kyle Johnson on the inside. But decides to back off just a little bit, but that exit speed, here comes the 88.
Kind of diamonding the corner, a little bit opposite of what we would expect. Shallow entry, then lets it ride up through the center of the corner and wide off the exit. Holds within a car length between himself and Blaine Atkin. Bo Brady right behind in third. AJ DeMarzo, despite the restart issue, he was able to get it back going. 4th position, trying to hold off John Whitendorf.
Yeah, everyone's going to be single file until you drop back to around 7th place. Actually, back to 8th place. Cooper Johnson looked a little frustrated and a little bit frazzled at times. Now it's going to be behind Jason Hounshell for 10th place, where you're seeing Jeff Green and Goshen side by side.
The back end of the car, step out on Jeff Green a little bit there on the inside line of that 85 machine. That's going to be something we'll be following all day with the loose condition. Jeff Green's going to spin it around.
First caution of the day, and you just had a sense it was going to happen back here with how clustered everyone was, and especially with how loose they've been feeling it in that inside lane. It is going to be so troublesome all race long, and Jeff Green, just the victim of looseness on the front stretch.
Credit Jeff Green for being able to get onto the brakes quickly enough that he did not hit the inside wall, and he was The back end was almost sticking out into the lower racing lane, so credit everybody else that was racing double wide behind him to be able to have enough space to not hit him. So we do have our first caution of the day, but not really any cars damaged in the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, Gerald Campbell and also Randy Koking, closest of those drivers that almost made contact with the two. Unsure where Jeff Green was going to be, but a great veteran move on Jeff Green's part to hold the brake and allow the drivers to drive around the two machine. But this is, I mean, early on in this race, lap 4 is when this caution came out, and it's only going to be like this for the rest of the race, I think, just because of how loose the drivers and the way the setup is. And the track isn't even hot enough to really say that the track temp is the reason for all this hot and slick racing.
If we looked back at that Jeff Green incident, one thing that I know for certain played a factor into that spin is when you're down that inside line, you want to mash the throttle as soon as possible. And usually there's a bit of wheel spin that comes into play trying to get back to the throttle when you're that far down the racetrack. But I also noticed just before his car spun around, must be a kind of a little bit of a dip over there when you come out of turn 4 exit on that inside line onto this front straightaway, because it kind of looked like the car bogged down for a brief moment.
Yeah, and that's a bump that the driver's going to have to deal with most of this race. I believe it's also on the entry of turn 1. There's a bump there as well that the drivers have to deal with on the inside. So the inside, yes, it is the shortest way around the course, but certainly is one of the more difficult areas to deal with, because if you do hit that bump on the exit of turn 4, just like we saw, your car is just going to get light, and really it's going to be a struggle to hold on to.
Well, we saw a lot of stuff go down there even in the first 5 laps of this race, and a couple of drivers that made quick work of drivers ahead of them. Gerald Campbell started back in the 15th position, already up to 11th place, and Christopher Morse Jr., who was back in 17th, picked up 3 spots up to 14th. So you know these are going to be some of your hard chargers that are going to be up at the front before this thing's over.
Yeah, and really, Christopher Morse Jr. is going to be that driver that we're going to keep our eyes on. Didn't have any practice or qualifying time for the 3, and this is very similar to the way that he's been racing the last couple of weeks, and it's worked out for the 3 to really find the speed in traffic. So once he got open air, was able to take off.
Yeah, started 22nd 2 weeks ago at Iowa, and was able to work his way to through the field in 150 laps time to pick up the first victory and only victory so far of the season for that 3 car. Green flag back in the air on lap number 9.
And Blaine Atkin already up to a great launch, but it's Bo Brady able to get up to 3rd, almost pushing the 88 car out of the way. And it's just that momentum the drivers have to deal with. And it really looks like the whole entire field's trying to get by the 5 machine, but doing a great job. Anthony Graneri on the outside, trying to find some momentum as he drifts all the way up to the 3rd lane.
Yeah, looks like he ran way too wide there. He's going to lose a spot to John Whitendorf. Tries to battle back on the right side of that 33, who in turn is trying to get to the inside of AJ DiMarzo.
And Gerald Campbell still in 10th place and kind of just seeing a wall in front and behind him. There's not really much space to go with, as now we're starting to see our front runners staying in line from about 2nd forward. It's Cooper Johnson under fire from the 00, and Gerald Campbell waited, and there goes, oh no, there goes Jason Houndshell spinning around in the 00.
And he goes into the grass, down into that steel guardrail we were talking about in the back straightaway. Doesn't look like a caution's going to fly since it was off the racing surface, so we remain green for the time being.
And that's a certain type of a wreck that if you, there goes Gerald Campbell, who's going to have to make an amazing save for that 25 machine, but losing a lot of time.
Campbell going to now fall back into the clutches of Christopher Morse Jr. and Jay Cownshell. Further up, AJ DiMarzo back under fire. John Whitendorf, Anthony Guarneri, Hank Steinmiller, all trying to get around that 5 machine, who's trying to hold them off. But, you know, we talked with Gerald, and he said, you know, we're at a short track. Push is going to come to shove. Friends and enemies were made last week, and it may carry over here today, or new rivalries may occur here in the first half of this race.
Yeah, it's still a lot of racing to be seen, and the issue is really the 5 is defending his position perfectly. Pinch the driver on the inside, force them to have to back out of the throttle while you're able to get up to speed a lot better on the exit of these corners. And right now, you're seeing our front runners doing a great job at where they're running. Blaine Atkin trying to pull away up to a 0.8 seconds ahead of Kyle Johnson. Bo Brady trying to keep it close. Caution to the back.
Caution's going to come out. It's Randy Koking in the 19 around over in turn 1. Looks like he may have possibly gotten himself up into the outside wall. A lot of front end damage as he's trying to get the car refired before the leaders catch him. Looks like he will do so.
Yeah, looked like coming close to the outside wall. Just missed it, but smashing the inside wall. Heavily damaged the 19 machine. Should be able to get that repaired. just because it's a short track, able to get repairs done pretty easily here at North Wilkesboro. But I think that second contact to the wall might have blown the engine. What could have been just a minimal hit could be now catastrophic.
Yeah, and with it being a short track, it doesn't take him long to complete a pacing lap here, and so he's going to more than likely, talking about Randy Koking, fall multiple laps down and going to have to hope that he gets multiple cautions to maybe get enough free pass to get him back on the lead lap. He hasn't even made it to pit road yet in that 19 machine, still smoking currently over in turns 3 and 4.
You know, with the factor of how loose these cars are, that means that you're going to be seeing a lot of wear and tear on the rear tires of these machines. And tires might actually become a bigger factor just because of how many cautions have been coming out than what we've seen in the last couple of weeks, where we've seen a lot more green flag racing. So these drivers now, with all the cautions, can pick and choose. When do I want to use the 2 sets of tires that I have in pit road?
Well, the Houndshell brothers were just on pit road, Jake and Jason, along with Peyton Hill and James Roth. Now, it looks like Jake Houndshell, Hill, and Roth, like they went with fuel only. A little bit of a longer stop there for Jason Houndshell. I don't know if he took on any tires or if he was getting some damage possibly repaired there, but about a 14-second stop for the 00.
Yeah, it was fuel and also damage repair. When he slid to the inside grass there a couple of laps ago, did brush the inside wall and trying to get that damage repair, so his car is fixed up and ready to go. Looks like there's not front end damage that is going to be hurting this 00, so should still have full power and still able to run close to the drivers up front.
Should be getting the lights out this time. Get ready to go back green. One really good thing about the short tracks is the pacing laps don't take that long before we're able to get back under green flag conditions, as Blaine Akin will pull the inside with Kyle Johnson to his outside. Bo Brady, John Whitendorf, and AJ DeMarzo going to be the top 5 when we go back green. Randy Koking has indeed made it to pit road, sits there in his stall. They're trying to get that car repaired. James Roth back down pit lane, possibly to top off the fuel tank again. No, it looks like he actually just came down pit road for a pass-through, maybe to EOL himself and start at the rear of the field.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad call to make, but pace car is off. Green flag back in the air as Blaine Akin able to get a great launch once again up to a car length lead over there of Kyle Johnson, and now the battle for third place heated up right now. Bo Brady, John White.
That was a little more than a little bit out of shape for sure. That car was nearly completely around. Look at Anthony Guarneri drive it deep there into turn 3, trying to get the outside line going. Got a little loose off of 4 for his troubles.
Oh boy, John Whitendorf and Bo Brady, they might be rubbing each other when they're coming off the corner, but these drivers, they have to be careful with how close they're running. Drivers surprising me right now, but really shouldn't be. That's the 3, as well as the 2 of Jeff Green. Jeff Green, who dropped all the way back to the end of the field after being our first caution, now up to 9th place and about to pass for 8th.
The other thing that's making me nervous when I'm seeing drivers make a pass to the outside line, case in point what we saw there with the 20 and the 33 just moments ago. When the 20 pushed up the track, John Whitendorf went to the outside, basically laying the responsibility on Bo Brady to not slide up into him. And if I think back to last week at Dover, Sam, we saw a lot of drivers try to make that outside line work. The car to their inside would push up, putting up into the wall. So there's a lot of trust going in there when you make a pass to the outside of somebody at a short track.
I think the biggest thing, though, here at North Wilkesboro is the fact that the drivers on the inside seem to be spinning into the inside wall and not really pushing up too much when the exit of these corners. Like Dover, we were seeing a lot of drivers pushing up on the exit of the corner as the 5 gets turned.
Right on board, right into your living room. We saw that contact as we were on the nose of the 63. AJ DeMarzo spin on the back straightaway, 3rd caution of the day.
Yeah, he drifted up and tried to diamond it down, but was just running a little bit too slow for Steinmiller's liking, and the 5 car gets spun around, and now he'll be dropping to the end of the line.
That's another thing, too, that happens at short tracks. The patience will eventually run out, and the driver will decide, all right, you're not going to get out of my way. I'm going to push you out of the way. Sometimes they push you out of the way where you're still able to gather it up. Sometimes it's this case where the 5 car goes spinning.
Yeah, I mean, DeMarzo is going to be kind of frustrated because he was having a good run up front. But I think a lot of these front runners now have recognized, hey, the 5 hasn't been up here all season long. I'm not going to be patient with you. If I feel like I'm faster than you, I'm going to get you out of the way. It's the final race of the season. Patience is out the window. It's all about winning this race and not for a championship anymore.
But you know, I have a feeling that even guys that have been running up here at short tracks week after week, they're going to get the same treatment when we get closer and closer to the end of this race.
No, certainly. I mean, some of these drivers have been very competitive and just using their bumper for most of the season. I mean, Kyle Johnson, one of the favorites. Jeff Green has been using his bumper a lot so far this season. And those are the two drivers that just come to mind. Blaine Atkin has also used his bumper. And so you got to be thinking, hey, if those drivers are around you and you feel like you're faster than them, hey, they've moved me around so far this season. Maybe they need a little bit of payback themselves.
It's kind of interesting, not necessarily in track length, but kind of the configuration and the banking and the corners. The two tracks that we've run at so far this season that are very similar to North Wilkesboro, Nashville and Richmond. While we saw Blaine Atkins dominant at Nashville until the final lap when he spun out and Jacob Putman was able to take that victory, and then, of course, dominated at Richmond, was able to close out the deal there with that victory. So no surprise to see that a track that has corners somewhat similar in configuration to those two is out in front leading this one.
Yeah, I think what the drivers have learned throughout the season, I mean, Richmond as well as Nashville were really early on in the season, and the drivers recognized that certain tracks, you have to worry about your tires and how they're going to last throughout the whole entire race. And I think the drivers recognized, hey, maybe you just got to stick with Blaine Atkin and hope that you saved enough while trying to keep up with the 05, because you know he's going to burn out his tires earlier than everyone else. You just know that he might have a big enough lead where you can't catch up to him.
Update on the 19 of Randy Koken as we have the opportunity here. He is still on pit road. More repairs continuing on that 19 machine. So pretty much effectively, I could say, even though we're only less than 30 laps into this race, he's 11 laps down. Very unlikely that he's going to get back onto the lead lap. So now it's a question of whether he can get out there, maybe capitalize on other drivers' misfortunes, pick up a couple of spots here in the final finishing results.
Yeah, most likely by the time that, because when you blow an engine, it's about 30 minutes to almost 40 minutes of track time that it is going to take for the driver to get that repaired and then back on track, and you're still going to be underpowered. Randy Koken might come back out onto the track being about 66 to maybe even 75 laps down. Who knows if the 19 wants to continue driving after that, but it certainly is going to be a long day for the 19 getting those repairs done and watching everyone else race. The pace car lights are off. We're going this time.
We're about to be a fifth of the way through this race. Lap 30 going to go on the board. Blaine Atkin again, a great jump. Going to open up about a car length by the time they get to the start-finish line. The battle again is going to be for that third position, but the roles are reversed. Now it's going to be Bo Brady on the top and John Whitendorf on the bottom.
You got to be wondering what these drivers and where they're being placing themselves. Who on the outside can make it work? We've already seen Granary try to make that outside line have a little bit more grip. But so far, Bo Brady doing a great job holding strong on the outside. John Whitendorf just cannot get on the throttle on the exit, and there he goes. Woo!
Nice save by the 33, and look who's to his outside. How about that? With the speed of the Tasmanian Devil from the back of the field to the front, Christopher Morse Jr. has cracked the top 4 in about 30 laps.
And Jeff Green's got to be back in 6th place, just lingering around. And then also Gerald Campbell back in 9th. You're just seeing some of the drivers that started in the back half of the field. They're starting to march their way forward. They might not have had the best qualifying time, but certainly have the race pace.
And it certainly is a thing as well that's kind of difficult for drivers like Campbell and Green and Morse to do, and that is have the patience, because we know they've got the speed every single week to be up at the front, but it's the one thing that's most against a racer's nature, and that's just bide your time. You want to go when that opening is there.
Yeah, I mean, for some drivers, they're able to save their tires as Morris able to hold on. Whew. We're just going to be seeing that almost every single corner now. It's coming out. Someone's going to have an issue. But Christopher Morse Jr. trying to figure out that outside groove, and I think he's got it. Going to be able to make the pass here on Whitendorf.
I would have to assume as well, and this may be a shot in the dark because I'm not really all that familiar with North Wilkesboro, as you see now Whitendorf loose on the inside, but I would have to think in terms of tire conservation, that outside line would actually not be nearly as wearing on that right front as the inside line.
Yeah, and also if you're being patient while cutting your way through traffic, as long as you are not just pounding and trying to pass everyone as fast as possible, and you're being pretty patient and methodical with it, you can actually save your tires a little bit better than the drivers that are up front, just grinding their gears, trying to get as fast as possible, because you're not using up the tires as much when you're being a little bit slower, conserving, and trying to help yourself. But still, side-by-side racing here for the battle for 4th place, and also for the battle for 6th place.
Yeah, and Christopher Morse Jr., though, setting a bit of a trend right now, because when he jumped up at the top, 16 is loose, and I think he spun it around on the front stretch.
He did. Caution's going to be coming out, and that was in front of a lot of drivers, and luckily, I don't think anyone else was involved with Anthony Granary getting spun around, and he almost came back up into Gerald Campbell and others, and that could have been a horrific crash for a lot of drivers, but luckily, Anthony Granary sticking it to the inside and just dealing with the damage himself.
He was right in front of the 25 of Gerald Campbell, I do believe, coming off of turn 4, and that's about 3 consecutive laps that he was really loose off that final turn. It finally loops around on, and we'll take a look at this off of turn 4. And yeah, just gets loose. And man, he almost had the thing saved. But I'm almost wondering if he had saved it, if he would have been able to recover it, if Gerald Campbell would have had the reflexes in time to avoid hitting him in the back end.
I mean, at these speeds and the way that everyone's trying to get going, I mean, it's tailgating at this point. I mean, you also had Steinmiller behind Gerald Campbell, so he tried to slow up, but then got bumped by the 63s. So you had a huge chain reaction that happened there between those 3 drivers, and it was Anthony Graneri who got the worst of it.
You see right there, no contact between the 16 and the 25. Regardless, Gerald Campbell has brought his car down pit road along with Guarneri, and it looks like also the 4 of James Roth back down pit road again.
Ooh, a little bit of a strategy call here. Gerald Campbell coming in for tires. And also looks like Anthony Guarneri going to get some repairs done as well for tires. So this is going to be giving us a good opportunity. 40-lap difference is going to be between the 25 and the rest of the field from about 11th forward. So now we're going to see what fresh tires are like for the 25 machine and how much of an advantage this is going to be.
I think these drivers have 2 sets of tires down there in pit road waiting for them. And with Campbell and Guarneri taking on this set now, they're more than likely going to have to probably stretch it at least a lap 80, maybe 90 before they take on that final set. I'm not really sure how far they can go on a set of tires here, but we're not quite to the third of the way mark.
Yeah, and I think this is also just a point to strategize. I mean, you could probably take these tires pretty far. We've seen a lot of drivers be able to take some of their tires at a little bit longer courses, be able to go for about 80 laps on a set of tires. So it's still possible for Gerald Campbell and also for Guarneri to be able to run out there, try to just push the car as far as they can go tire-wise, and still have about 30 laps to work with if they need to use their final set. But for the rest of the field, this is going to be great knowledge. It's usually been Bo Brady and Kyle Johnson that are the early ones, but they've got track position right now, not feeling pressured like they need to get tires right now.
Exactly. One thing that happened there just prior to Anthony Guarneri's spin off of turn 4 that I was observing was the fact we saw that Chris Morse Jr. was making the outside line somewhat work in his attempt to pass John Whitendorf, who was at the time 4th place. And drivers behind were noticing that. I saw Jeff Green jump up to that group as well, trying to get around Guarneri, which he was successful in doing, and Gerald Campbell jumped up there as well. I think we're going to probably see more and more drivers trying to lay down rubber up there and try to utilize that as a lane that could come into play in the closing stages.
And also it's just because of the tires and the way this track's going to evolve with older tires. You're not going to be able to really stay on the bottom as hard as you want to. As pace car pulls off, green flag back in the air, Blaine Atkins going to get us started here. But these drivers are most likely the older tires they get, the more they're going to have to be moving up. And now I'm going to keep my eye back here in 13th place. It's going to be Gerald Campbell on that 3rd lane trying to find the speed to pass everyone in front of him.
We're going to watch the battle here for 3rd place between Whitendorf and Brady. Looks like that may settle itself out here off of 4. Nope, Brady battles back. Now Whitendorf's going to clear. Jeff Green now to the back door looking for the 4th position as now we'll drop back to those fresher tires of Gerald Campbell. He's now trying to crack the top 10 underneath Jason Hounshell.
Yeah, it looks like Campbell wants to use the outside lane and try to pass everyone up there, but kind of was getting stuffed by Jason Hounshell in the 00 that was not giving any space as the 25 had to go to the inside, using up some of that rubber, but still up front, Bo Brady under fire from Jeff Green, who's on the inside.
And I noticed as well, you were talking about the older tires here with us being 45 laps here. I noticed that was maybe the one time I saw a little bit of a bob, a little bit of tires spinning by Blaine Atkins. Now, he is still out there by about maybe half a second over Kyle Johnson, but even the race leader is feeling the effects of the worn tires.
Yeah, honestly, if we're going to be having these little spurts of about 10 to 15 laps and a caution coming out, this is going to be hurting Blaine Atkins the most because that just means that each run, he is burning up his tires more and more with how fast he's running compared to the rest of the field, and it's going to just hurt him overall while you've got John Whitendorf who's slowly making his charge forward. We haven't seen the 33 get too loose. There's been only a couple of times that I've seen him get out of shape, while everyone else around him have really gotten out of shape recently.
Kyle Johnson had a moment, a couple laps go off of turn 2, and one thing I noticed that last time around through 3 and 4, John Whitendorf almost got his left front down there into the grass area. I mean, there's no transition down there, no apron for these drivers to be able to go on to. It is asphalt and then down to grass, and I would have to think there's a huge difference in grip levels between those two different surfaces.
In 5 laps, Gerald Campbell has gone from 13th up to 7th place, so it is possible to make a lot of moves up front, but maybe you wanted a couple of more laps before you got these fresh tires. But Campbell now going to be pressuring Christopher Morris Jr.
That's going to be the battle right now for 6th. Morris Jr. kicked to the outer groove. Campbell trying to get the bite off the corner, and you can just see even right there, the fresh tires allowing him to be able to get that exit on the inside line off of turn 4. Drove it really deep into turn 1. It stuck, but Christopher Morris Jr. not going to let him get away that easily.
Yeah, I mean, that's the advantage with the fresh tires that you can see is the fact that he can really throw it in and the car's going to stick on the inside. With those older tires, if you try to make that same move, you're most likely going to be spinning the car around or just going straight up to that third lane with pushing as hard as we just saw Campbell do. But Bo Brady in front of him, going to get out of shape and into the outside wall and going to be losing a lot of momentum for the 20 machine.
You mentioned the fact that this was a track that was established and closed before safer barriers came into being in the NASCAR series, and it's a concrete barrier out there, so how much does it affect a race car when they go up there and brush that outside wall, or in the case of right there for Bo Brady, make some pretty extensive contact with the right side?
I mean,
no!
There goes Bo Brady.
Save it!
I mean, that was some hard contact on the left side, for the 20 machine that he's now going to have to deal with. Also, front end damage on the right side for the 3 that he's going to have to deal with. But a little bit of net code, and Christopher Morris Jr. still extremely loose coming out 2.
Christopher Morris Jr. now going to fall back into the clutches of Hank Steinmiller and Jake Countshell. That's going to be a 3-way battle for the 6th position momentarily. Further up, though, Gerald Campbell, he's gotten around Jeff Green into the 4th spot. Battle for 2nd's back on again. Little contact maybe there between the 88 and the 33.
The 33 hasn't been here, but he might have watched last week's broadcast and saw how much Kyle Johnson was roughing a little bit of feathers. And maybe due to the fact it's the end of the season, some people are going to be giving the 88 a little bit more of pressure than what he's been feeling all season long.
When John Whitendorf took his win at USA International, he was one of those drivers that was very committed to the very inside line of the track, the shortest way around the track. That's where he's been. He's not been one of those drivers migrating up to that second lane, and it's worked for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's just taking things slow and taking what is being given to you right now. Those tires might be being burnt out a little bit due to the fact that he's losing time on our leader, but still feels comfortable and confident, running as low as he can. But he's going to get a lot of pressure. Gerald Campbell might have to use his bumper because he's been running on the inside most of this run, and Whitendorf going to be moving up out of the way and knew the pressure was there. Now going to be trying to stay in front of Kyle Johnson.
Yeah, maybe the deepest we've seen a driver drive into turn 1, Gerald Campbell there. But of course, as you mentioned, he's got that grip underneath and be able to do so. Ooh, a little slow there, though. Might have had a bobble in the center of 3 and 4 because John Whitendorf came right up to his back bumper again.
A little bit of a bobble. Also might have found a bump there in the center of the corner that could have really gotten this car unstable and unhappy, but still able to hold on underneath. The gap was as caution in the back. It's going to be Roth in the 4 machine, spun in the front stretch.
Right down there just in front of the start-finish line. That was literally a corner in front of the race leaders as well. They were starting to approach that Coca-Cola Chevrolet. He's waiting for the field to go by, finally gets the car refired. He's been to pit road a couple of times here under these few yellow flags to get some damage repaired, and he's going to sustain some more here with this spin off of turn 4.
Yeah, the woes of last week and the week previous just continue to attach to the 4 machine, and hoping for a better race here this week, and it just looks like James Roth's bad luck continues on, as now we're seeing a lot of drivers coming into the pits this time around. And this is certainly a change that we're going to be seeing, expecting a lot of drivers to take 4 tires after seeing Gerald Campbell really advance with those tires that he'd gotten, and looking like it, 4 tires for most of the drivers out here.
You know, the incredible thing about that spin there with James Roth, most of the time we're able to almost predict when a driver's going to spin around because you already see the car stepping out on them before they even get to the exit of the corner. That one kind of looked like it wasn't going to be a spin. The 4 car seemed he was pointed pretty straight off of the turn, and all of a sudden back end comes around in a split second.
Yeah, I mean, with these older tires, though, if you get onto the throttle just a little bit too quick, it could just irritate it and get it spinning. And I think that was kind of what happened there. Of the 4 just getting onto the throttle a little bit too soon, or smashing it instead of gradually getting onto the throttle. That got him irritated and spun around, and now going to have to get more repairs done for the 4 machine, as, like I said, most of the field going to take some tires and fuel. But Hank Steinmiller, I'm going to have to go back and see if the 63 machine even took any tires. Looks like he just drove right through pit lane.
I think he missed his pit stall, did Steinmiller in the 63, and he is going to still stay out in that machine. So he's been out there now for 60 laps on that set of tires because he's not one, I guess, to give up the track position here to come back down pit road. However, Jason Hounshell, who stayed out with Gerald Campbell, he's going to come down. So now Gerald Campbell looks back in his rearview mirror. Yes, he has the 60 lap tires of Hank Steinler behind him, but then he's got the fresh tires of Akin, Whitendorf, Johnson, and Green. So maybe a proverbial sitting duck here. We're going to have to see, since he controls this restart, how much of a gap he's going to be able to get.
Yeah, and with the fact that it is going to be like this for this restart of Gerald Campbell having about 20 lap older tires than the rest of the field, that's splitting what Campbell had over the rest of the field. When Campbell got his fresh tires, he had over 40 laps advantage over everyone else. So this is going to be a good tell for everyone up front. How fast is this 25 machine on 20 lap older tires compared to the rest of the field? They're all going to be on equal fresh tires that can really stick it on the inside and try to pressure this 25. And how far back will he go until he needs to pit? Probably around lap 100.
You don't think drivers are constantly thinking, look at this strategy. Gerald Campbell taking the outside line. Why is he doing that? Because he puts the fastest car on track, Blaine Akin, behind the 60-lap-old tires of Hank Steinmiller.
Campbell going to be staying as high as he can, trying to get all the momentum that he possibly can. Here comes Blaine Akin, already trying to make the pass. We're going to be 3 wide into turn number 1.
And Blaine Akin going to drive it deep into the corner. They will successfully make that 3 wide work. Almost contact.
Jeff Green!
Jeff Green
and the 5 involved.
I believe that was Kyle Johnson.
Oh no, looks like also Cooper Johnson going to be involved in this thing as well.
Caution's going to fly for the 6th time here, and it was a battle, I believe, for the 5th position at the time between the 2 and the 88 where the contact was made.
I mean, both drivers were trying to hold their lane, and it's kind of difficult to see. We're going to have to take multiple looks at this incident, if Kyle Johnson drifted up or where drivers were exactly for this incident.
I think from that camera angle, it looks like Green may have arced it down.
Yeah. I think Jeff Green was expecting Johnson to go all the way down to the grass, and he didn't. He held in the center. There also looks like there might have been a slight net code that got the 2 machine completely sideways there, but still close racing here at the start of this restart.
I mean, even from there, from the chopper cam, it's hard to be able to tell. Little contact as well for the 5 of AJ DeMarzo, as well as the 14 of Cooper Johnson. So a few drivers getting bits and pieces of this wreck. I don't think Jeff Green got a whole lot of damage out of that, but he definitely lost a lot of track position. And this was a driver who had just come down pit road to take on fresh tires.
Yeah, that slide certainly is going to warm those tires up, and maybe have worn them down a little bit more than he wanted to. Anthony Granero going to be coming into the pits and trying to get some service done for the 16. But yeah, it looked like for the 5 and the 14, as well as for the 2, the contact was pretty slow because it was in the center of the corner where you're going to be at the slowest for a lot of these drivers. And so able to hold off some fuel there, but I'm wondering if it's mainly just looks visually horrific compared to like what we were seeing last week, where visually a lot of cars looked extremely damaged, but we're still running just as fast as they were at the start of the race. And this could be something that we're seeing once again here at North Wilkesboro.
Well, James Roth brought out the last caution, fell a lap down after his spin. This caution puts him back on the lead lap. He's the lucky dog, so we will have 16 drivers still on the lead lap of 16 that are still running on the track. 17th place is Randy Koking. Actually, he has returned back to the track as well, 26 laps down. So all 17 drivers took the green to start this race are still out there now on the racetrack. But how about that move by Blaine Akin? As soon as I say that, though, Blaine Akin's coming down pit road in the 05 going to the back.
Yep, he got hit.
Possible restart violation?
A restart violation that Blaine has been getting away with all season long, and we were waiting for admins when they were finally going to crack down on the 05 for some of these, because the moves that we've been seeing, a lot of them have actually been illegal moves by the 05, and finally admins are cracking down on it. Blaine Akin, end of the line penalty for the 05.
Like we're going with single file restarts here as well. Campbell right up against the wall with Whitendorf, Steinmiller, Johnson, and DeMarzo. Green flag back in the air as we're closing in on halfway.
And now we get to keep our eyes out, see how the 25 can hold off the rest of the field that are on the much fresher tires. Also, I'm going to watch out for Kyle Johnson. He's now going to be worrying about drivers in front of him that he feels like he's faster than and might have to use his bumper to try to make some aggressive moves.
Further back behind them, you got a side-by-side battle. Peyton Hill trying to hold off Bo Brady will successfully do so. So Peyton stays in the 7th spot. Brady back to 8th. He's got James Goshen behind him as Peyton Hill really loose and really slow out of turn 2. That's going to lose him a spot.
Battle for the lead also up front. It's going to be John Weindorf on the inside of the 25, Gerald Campbell. And Weindorf, with the fresher tires, might be able to make the pass. But Campbell's still holding strong after a lap of side-by-side racing.
You know that Whitendorf likes that inside line. Behind them, 3rd place battle. Kyle Johnson, Hank Steinmiller will stay with the battle up front currently here as Whitendorf tries to clear. Half a car length clear. Now might be clear at the start-finish line. Not quite. Campbell still on that top side.
The battle for 3rd place. Kyle Johnson was able to make that pass and now going to be trying to run down these front 2 that are still side-by-side. It's been 2 laps and they still stay side-by-side.
And this is incredible that Campbell is doing this on what would be about 20 lap older tires than John Whitendorf. But now, well, I thought he was going to have to give up the spot. Again remains to the right rear quarter panel and drives it deep into turn 1.
A driver that's trying to crack into the top 5 has been kind of under the radar. That's going to be Jake Hounshell in the 0-2 trying to get by the 5, but they're still just after that corner. Whitendorf finally able to make the pass.
Now Jake Hounshell kind of boxed in. AJ DeMarzo trying to get around Hank Steinmiller. What a great run here tonight for DeMarzo. Qualified up inside the top 5. Right now still in that 5th position, trying to advance another spot. But now they're all wadded up back there as well. Hounshell, Brady, Hill, and here comes a hard-charging Jeff Green after his spin.
Yeah, Jeff Green might have spun around, but certainly a top 5 speed-wise. I mean, Green was a top 5 fastest car during practice and just has been caught up in a couple of spins here during this race that have really set him back. But caution going to be set. Cooper Johnson as well as the 3, it looks like. No, excuse me, just Cooper Johnson involved.
Yeah, the 3's on pit road. Came to pit road a lap ago. Johnson the reason for this caution. So we'll try and figure out what happened to Christopher Morse Jr. as well. And it looks like he may have actually teleported to pit road. May have been an issue that might not have brought a caution here. We'll have to wait and see.
Trying to go back to see exactly what happened to the 3, but certainly for Cooper Johnson, looks like that was just a self-spin for the 14 to bring out this caution.
Like about 2 minutes ago, the 3 came to pit road. Yeah, this was an unscheduled stop, I would have to assume. Christopher Morse Jr. I'm seeing some possible right front damage on that car. I don't know if he got into it with somebody just prior to that or not.
So what happened with the 3 car and why is it so heavily damaged? It was back under pacing on lap 65 where Anthony Gurneri made a very late move to pit road that made the contact, and it looks like now the 3 just trying to get repairs done from that contact and hasn't really had the time to do it because of how quick we've been going under pacing.
Here's a look at what you're talking about right there, the contact between the 16 and the 3. And apparently it looked pretty hard there. And that was enough to draw Christopher Morse Jr. down pit road. We'll now take a look at what actually brought out the caution, the incident with the 14 of Cooper Johnson. Turn 4 has been a problem spot for a lot of drivers here today, and I think it will continue to be so.
Yeah, I mean, it's that transition of you've gone up, you've hit your peak, and now you're going to be driving down as well as trying to get into the throttle. A lot of physics making you want to spin around coming out of 4, and the driver's getting set here as continuing to look at how that went down. I gotta say, though, kudos to the 25 Gerald Campbell with the older tires still able to keep it close and side-by-side racing with Whitendorf, but I think now we're going to be seeing that real difference of the tires moving forward as Whitendorf got 20 laps under himself with these tires that are warmed up. And right now, Gerald Campbell, 41 lap old tires. These things are just going to drop off further and further as the run goes on.
Yeah, if you gave me the scenario of tire differences between the 2 drivers here at North Wilkesboro, I would have said to you easily the 33 would just blow by the 25, but Campbell was able to keep it side by side for the race lead for 4 consecutive laps before eventually having to give up that top position to John Whitendorf. Again, kind of out there testing the waters on certain things, and maybe something he'll have in the back of his mind if we end up having some later cautions here in the second half of this race, which we have now entered into.
Do want to give credit to Randy Kokian, did get that engine repaired way faster than I thought he was going to. Only 25 laps down into 19, and with seeing Christopher Morse Jr. having his issues, could be given the 19 a position for himself up to 16th position in the next about 12 to 13 laps.
John Whitendorf going to get us back underway. He chooses the top side on this restart. Campbell will be beside him in second on the inside. Then it's going to be Kyle Johnson. Kyle Johnson, AJ DeMarzo, then Jake Hounshell and Bo Brady. Green flag back in the air. Whitendorf with a great launch, going to open up a little bit of a gap between himself and Campbell, and at the same time, be able to arc it down low into the corner of turn 1.
Kyle Johnson is the driver I've got my eye on. How aggressive is he going to be moving forward? But also, Blaine Atkin, hard charging 0-5, had to go all the way at the end of the line, now up to 8th place, and trying to find his way past Jeff Green. Ain't gonna bump him, pushes Jeff Green up, and here comes Blaine Atkin on the inside.
Way up the track goes Jeff Green. We'll see if Green can get back up there to the 0-5. Again, it's a short track. Short tracks breed short tempers, and it's the final race of the season. The gloves are off. Is Bo Brady up ahead into the wall? DeMarzo up into the wall as well. They're going to wreck over into turn 1.
Oh, boys, the 5 going to hold the brake, and he finally is going to stop it on the high side, but a lot of drivers almost ran into him, and that was building up between the 5 and the 20. I mean, that was hard racing on the entry of corner number 3, and then they were still side by side, and yeah, that was building up for this caution to happen.
Yeah, 20 went up into the wall from what I saw in the back half of our screen, and then I believe that the 5 was getting loose on the front straightaway, eventually trying to save it, gets up into the wall and into Bo Brady. Here it was. There you see the 5, he gets loose, 20's up into the fence. 20 actually came down off the wall, may have hooked into the right rear of AJ DeMarzo, sending him up into the outside retaining wall. But yeah, a lot of hard racing going on there, and it was getting to the point where push was going to come to shove. Unfortunately, shove ended up with both of them wrecked over in turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, there was contact between the drivers coming out of corner number 4, and just not sure if it was netcode. I mean, it looks like it might have been netcode that pushed Bo Brady up, but you don't see that in the inside of your car. You just feel being pushed. And retaliation certainly going to be used there as the 5 gets spun around. But now the question is, how damaged are these vehicles now? Is Bo Brady still out on track, feeling comfortable with the 20, even with the contact?
Yeah, AJ DeMarzo did not come down pit road either, and we know he had rather extensive contact with the right front of his machine, but he did not come to pit road. The only driver that hit pit road under this caution was Anthony Guarneri. He's been down multiple times during these yellow flags, getting some more damage repaired. We saw the 3 of Christopher Morse Jr. go around, getting one of his laps back. Right now, minus 10 to the race leaders after that unscheduled trip to pit road under green flag conditions.
And AJ is going to pull it into pit road, getting some damage repair done, as everyone else trying to find themselves cycling back around. As John Whitendorf looking like he wants the inside. We'll see where these drivers are going to be placing themselves if we're going to be having them stacked up for this race. As Whitendorf says, nope, I would like to have the outside lane, as everyone's trying to get lined up for this restart.
Gerald Campbell was hoping the 33 was going to take the inside line, but Whitendorf will indeed take driver's right. Campbell will be to his inside. Kyle Johnson, Jake Hounshell, and Bo Brady there. Completion of the top 5. A couple of drivers are going to be in close proximity to each other here on this restart. The 0-5 of Blaine Atkin and the 2 of Jeff Green. We saw that prior contact just before that yellow came out between the 2 when Green got sent up into turn 1. Got to wonder if some repercussions are going to take place here with the both of them in the same zip code.
Yeah, and in the question of will Bo Brady get a great launch to give opening for Atkin to drop down in front of Green, or will Green have to hold on the inside? It's going to be a certain battle between those two. I think the battle I'm waiting for is whenever we see Peyton Hill and Kyle Johnson close to one another. You got to remember last week, Kyle Johnson purposely wrecking the 84 after an incident between those drivers at the end of the race. And so there's a little bit of rivalry built up between those drivers as well. But up front, clean racing we've been seeing from the 25 and the 33 that were once battling for a championship late in this season. And now we are looking at the 25 car that has won the championship with John Whitendorf wanting to make a statement here at the end of the season.
Both drivers have wins this season, but if you look at the 88 and the 02 in that second row, they're still looking for a checkered flag.
No! Kyle Johnson did not let Campbell get going, and now they're all clustered up and wrecking on the front stretch.
Johnson, Houndshell, like maybe Peyton Hill got a piece of that. There were other drivers that got collected up in this one as the whole front straightaway was completely cluttered up with drivers into each other's back bumpers, and to take a couple of replays to be able to tally exactly all who got involved. I mean, we know for sure that John Whitendorf did it because he was ahead of all of it.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Johnson is going to be getting into Bo Brady. Also, Jake Houndshell, Blaine Atkin was involved, Peyton Hill. Driver that is surprising was able to get through all of that. I mean, visually didn't not get through it, but Peyton Hill might have gotten through that without too much damage for the 84.
Like Gerald Campbell dodged a bullet there despite getting spun out. He spun to the inside. Nobody hit him. The driver that everybody was making the contact with really was the 88 of Kyle Johnson. And again, we have to remember, Sam, that 25 is on much older tires than the others behind him. So may have been a case of spinning the tires there. And of course, as well, Kyle Johnson on the throttle into the back of him, leading to that as well. As Kyle Johnson, I think, got the most out of all that in terms of damage. That 02 of Jake Houndshell also got some pretty extensive damage on the front and back of his 02.
Yeah, Kyle Johnson's going to be in pit road with Anthony Graneri as well as Jason Houndshell trying to get some damage repair for those drivers. But, I mean, really looking at it at different angles, I mean, and also hearing from drivers on the radio chat, sounds like a lot of them were expecting everyone to take off a lot sooner. Whitendorf and Campbell kind of waited a little bit later on, so it Corey infect everyone else. And when they finally took off, you saw a lot of impatient drivers just wanting to go. And ultimately, it was the inside row that made a lot of that carnage.
Yeah, it's the tough thing about restarts. It is in the driver, the race leader's control when they want to go as soon as that car ducks onto pit road. So John Whitendorf did nothing wrong. He went when he wanted to go, but there's always that anticipation for drivers of trying to figure out when that leader is going to go so they can get the best launch to be able to pick up spots. And I mean, look at that 20 of Bo Brady. He definitely was involved in that last wreck. He was involved in a wreck earlier on between himself and AJ DeMarzo. I mean, that whole right front is completely crumpled on that Miller machine, and yet he's still up here in that second position.
Yeah, I mean, that's short track racing, though. You can run around this track looking like a modified car if you really needed to and still run pretty quick. As long as your engine's at full capacity and you can run as fast as you want, you're good to be up here. And now it's a question of how fast is that 20 machine after all the damage he's gotten. Also, can Whitendorf hold off the heavy hitters behind him? That second row, you got Blaine Atkin, Jeff Green. Those drivers might be having a little bit of a temper later on in this race, but we know they're both quick. It looks like it's going to be a single file restart for this start right here as the drivers are all lining up. Pace car lights are off.
It's all jumbled up with drivers getting through that carnage on the front straightaway and others picking up spots when others came to pit road for damage repair. It's Whitendorf, Brady, Green, Atkin, and Steinmiller now the top five. Peyton Hill is sixth. Cooper Johnson, who spun a couple of cautions ago, he's seventh. Goshen, Roth, and DeMarzo, that's your top 10 as Whitendorf gets us back underway.
Whitendorf got a huge launch, and it's going to be Bo Brady now. Going to just be under a lot of fire. Blaine Atkin might be a little impatient, almost crossing up the two machine. And those two are extremely close. Blaine Atkin, he might get impatient and move the two out of the way.
Well, the last time he was behind Jeff Green, he sent him up into turn one. We'll see what Jeff Green's going to do now with the 05 on his back bumper. Brady going to go up to the top side. Atkin goes up there as well. That opens the door for Green to try and take a spot. Woo! Wow, Hank Steinmiller, what a save.
Able to somehow save that 63 machine. And now you're going to be seeing Bo Brady trying to hold off and not able to do so as Blaine Atkin able to make the pass. Jeff Green going to be careful, but they're wrecking, and that looks like it's going to be Gerald Campbell in the 25 once again.
That time he got some pretty good contact, it looks like, with the right front of his machine into the inside
he got some
wall.
Help. Oh, he got some help, and that was mainly the help from the 5 car getting loose out of turn number 4, and the 25 was the wall for the 5.
It was a battle that was going on for position. I think it was around 9th place between AJ DeMarzo and Gerald Campbell. And let's see right here, the contact is Gerald Campbell. I mean, he's the one that got wrecked, but he kind of gets the Good Samaritan award because he's the one that straightened the 5 car out.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you got to be thinking, I mean, for the 5, whoo, that's a great way to save my machine. But for Gerald Campbell, it's just got to be frustrating. I mean, that's the one thing of once you fall back in the back half of the field, the potential of drivers that you haven't been around and how they're going to be reacting is going to continue moving forward.
On board here with Gerald Campbell. You watch to the right side. You can see right there, 5 car out of shape, comes down into the right side of Gerald Campbell's machine, and it's the 25 that finds himself spun around on the front straightaway. Gets the thing refired, remains on the lead lap, but Gerald talked about it tonight pre-race that he was expecting to see a lot of beating and banging out there tonight with the fact that the championship's already decided. Everybody's just trying to finish out the season on a high note now, and so there's going to be a lot more take than there is give, like much different than what we saw at the beginning, midway portion, and even closer to the end of the season.
Well, Seth, we talked about drivers and the fact that they got to change up their strategies. We've seen Bo Brady, Kyle Johnson early in the season go with the strategy of pit early, get tires early, get your track position, and be up front. This race, the finale, let's swap that. Bo Brady, first time he's been in pit road to try to get service done. Actually, the second time, and they believe this 20 machine might have taken his first set of tires to really help this 20 car out. Also got some damage repair. Bo Brady might be the car on the move, even with the damage on that right side.
The 88 of Kyle Johnson, also down pit road. I like this strategy as well, even if you're going down to take on your final set, because it's 50 laps to go. You're now 2/3 of the way through. I kind of would see this race as one where you would split it up 50-50 and then have your final set of tires for the final 50 laps, especially if you're running towards the back. And I mean, Bo Brady, with all that damage he had, undoubtedly would have to come to pit road, get some of that repaired. So why not take on that set of tires while you're there?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these drivers got to be thinking, when are we going to have a long green flag run, longer than just 5 to 10 laps? Are we going to have anything that goes further than that? And if we do, make sure you've got that best set of tires for that scenario. If you're able to go green, and like I said, the 50-100 decision for pit stops, this is for those drivers that are feeling a little bit like this thing could go green to the end. For those drivers that pitted on lap 40 to lap 60 who have not come in again for tires, they're now kind of stuck in a hole. Can they make it if this thing goes green to the end? And how worn are those tires going to be?
Well, the top 3 right now, John Whitendorf, Jeff Green, and Blaine Atkin for this restart, they've all been to victory lane, but then the entire 4th through 10th position are drivers that are still looking for a victory this year. You think they're hungry? We're about to find out. We're now into the home stretch of this race as it's less than 50 to go, and John Whitendorf gets us back underway.
Whitendorf's going to get a great run, but it's going to be Blaine Atkin and Jeff Green on the inside. Those two just cannot get away from one another as they're still there, and it's going to be Steinmiller as Blaine gets a little bit out of shape. It's going to give an opening for the 63 on the outside, and he's going to be trying to get that run. Steinmiller feels comfortable in that second lane, but will lose the momentum out of the corner.
He battles back, though, alongside the start-finish line does Steinmiller. It'll be Blaine Atkin trying to drive it deep into turns 1 and 2. Tries to get the power down, but continue to battle side by side for second. Or make that third.
Yeah, as we're seeing, it's everyone is starting to single it out until you drop back to around 10th place, where you just got a bunch of cars wadded up side-by-side action, and it's Bo Brady on the outside trying to make as many moves as possible. They're going to be 3 wide coming out of the corner.
And with those fresh tires, why not take it up to the third groove? Nobody's going to be up there. Brady going to pass 2 cars in the matter of 2 corners.
And this is going to give an opportunity for some of those drivers that we've been seeing and being involved in incidences with one another. How are they going to react once we see Kyle Johnson able to cut his way through? How will Peyton Hill want to be racing around that 88 machine? But our front 4 starting to pull away, and now Peyton Hill in 5th place. He's starting to catch up, and we're about to have possibly a 6-car battle for the lead here in just a couple of laps.
Looking at Bo Brady with those fresh tires, you talked about the possibility of having a long green flag run. Let's speculate that we end up running green from here to the finish. Brady right now is running about a little bit more than 3.5 seconds behind John Whitendorf. Is 43 laps enough time with those fresh tires to get up here to the front, maybe win this thing?
I think so. It took about 5 laps for Gerald Campbell on fresher tires than the rest of the field by about 40 laps, and that's kind of the difference that right now Bo Brady has to get up to around 7th place after being back in 13th. Up to 10th right now. We've been on this run for about 3-4 laps. Bo Brady certainly at this pace could find himself up front, but he's 4 seconds back from our leaders, which is the most concerning thing. He's not getting past these drivers that are in front of him from 9th forward very quickly, and kind of stalled out as Gerald Campbell trying to make a pass on the 4 machine in front of him.
James Roth, who's had his issues today, was a lap down at one point in this race. How about that comeback run? Currently in 8th. He will lose it, though. Will actually make that. He'll lose 7th to Gerald Campbell, and now falls back into the clutches of Bo Brady. Whoa, Brady drove it deep into the corner. Almost had to use.
5 car goes around.
Caution's going to come out.
Oh, and Kyle Johnson involved in this one as well.
Nearly had the wreck between the 0-2 and the 20, but it's AJ DeMarzo who goes around off of turn 2, bringing out this, our 11th caution of the night.
AJ and Christopher Morse Jr.
He just came up in front of Jeff Green as the leaders were going by. A little left side damage, left front damage for the 2 of Jeff Green.
I don't know what made the 5 car think that was a smart move, but that is frustrating to see. The 4 car had to go into the grass to try to avoid everyone that came to a complete stop on the backstretch. Oh no, AJ with such a great run, and I thought maybe he wasn't going to be involved in anything silly, but certainly that is a boneheaded moment there for the 5 car.
Well, he almost ran over James Goshen going into turn 1, then bailed out of the throttle. That's what Christopher Morse Jr. got into him. And now we're looking at this. There's the race leader going by, and there is Jeff Green trying to get on the brakes as the 5 comes back up the track. And, you know, there's driver etiquette out there. If you can get the car refired before the leaders catch you, that's one thing. But if the race leaders are coming out of the corner that you are in the exit of, you wait until they go around. It doesn't matter if you're going to fall a lap down. There's just a driver etiquette out there that DeMarzo didn't adhere to.
Yeah, and the way that his car was angled, you easily, if you've got it mapped to look around in your cockpit, you could easily look and wait when a car's coming, or you can get download programs that are going to tell you where the drivers are on track. That's just a silly moment for the 5 car that ruined one of the fastest cars out here days, possibly. Jeff Green tried to get those repairs done, going to have a lot of front left damage to deal with, and going to be in 9th place, but oh boy, that is frustration for the 2, because he's been involved in a lot of being moved around up front from some of these front run leaders, and now being caught up under a pacing incident. You hate to see it.
Well, he came down pit road, took on his final set of tires along with Blaine Atkin, John Whitendorf, Peyton Hill, Cooper Johnson. So those drivers are going to make a charge now. It gives the race lead to Hank Steinmiller in the 63 machine. Now, he did indeed take on a set of tires 37 laps ago. We documented how he was out there on 60-lap-old tires after missing his pit stall. So he has taken on a set of tires between then and now. James Roth is going to line up in 2nd, Bo Brady in 3rd, Jason Hounshell will be 4th, Anthony Guarneri in 5th, and James Goshen in 6th. Those were the 6 drivers that stayed out here under this yellow. So Atkin will try and slice his way back up to the front, restarting back in 7th.
If a caution comes out with 20 laps to go and Steinmiller comes in and has that set left, I think the 63 machine has a very solid chance to run that 3rd lane and pass everyone in front of him. It's a very high possibility. Steinmiller could be making the play to win this race, and it might take a lot of waiting, being patient, and try to keep this 63 car as clean as possible, trying to get to the end of this race. But it is going to be a hard-fought battle, and expecting a caution to come out, just like we've been seeing throughout this race.
If the scenario falls the way you're predicting here, he would have to pass 8 race cars in those 20 laps, because 8 race cars came to pit road under this caution. Green flag back in the air. Steinmiller going to get away from James Roth. Keep an eye on that blue machine back there of Blaine Atkin. We'll see how he works his way through the top 6.
Also, with the older tires, how our cars can be reacting. Bo Brady does have the freshest of the tires of the top 5. How well can he get past everyone up here? But they are starting to fan out. 3 wide action, and they're going to be 2, 3 wide throughout the rest of this race.
We were almost 3 wide, 2 rows deep. Never thought I'd say that at a short track, but it nearly happened as Blaine Atkin now behind Bo Brady, trying to get by James Roth. Roth getting a shove through turns 3 and 4 from the back by Guarneri with a save in the middle of the pack, and we got a spinner. It's Jeff Green.
Lane sliding. He's able to save it, but yeah, that wreck in the back. Jeff Green. AJ is going to be in pit road, but Jeff Green certainly was getting bumped around. He was a pinball for most of this race.
Well, they were wrecking for the last 2 laps. It took us that long for a caution to actually come out for it there. A lot of slipping and sliding, a lot of contact, but unfortunately, Jeff Green, I mean, the hard luck just continues. And again, another time where he was running up there inside of the top 10. He was scored in 7th at the time of his spin.
Yeah, Jeff Green saw that Granary was getting out of shape, backed off the throttle, but it was going to be Gerald Campbell. Not seeing that, and due to not seeing it, is going to be bumping the two out of the way, try to make a reaction move, but it's just unknowing of the situation in front of him and not having the reaction time to really change what was going on.
I'll tell you right now, the one driver I don't want to be out there is the driver that's around Jeff Green, because with all the spins and the things he's been involved in, there comes a point where you end up going out there and driving frustrated. And I think that maybe, just maybe, the two has reached that point here. So I think we're going to see a very aggressive Jeff Green in these final 30 laps.
Yeah, I mean, also you could throw out that this could be some type of karma or reaction to how last week went at Dover. Jeff Green, one of the most aggressive drivers last week, trying to make moves in the top 5, and now he's being just shoved around and not having any type of control of what's going on around his car. It's not even the fact that he's driving off. There's been 1 or 2 cautions that he's been involved with where he spun himself, but the majority of the cautions and wrecks that he's been a part of, he's been just being shoved everywhere so far.
Sometimes at the short tracks, you're the bowling ball. Other times, you're the pins. And I think Jeff Green's being a bowling pin here tonight. A lot of drivers have been bouncing off of him, moving him out of the way. And he's involved in this, our latest 12th caution of the day here. So caution comes out. We're going to go back green. Looks like probably somewhere around 25 laps to go. So you're saying that maybe in the next 5 to 10 laps, if we have a caution, that Steinmiller give up that track position, come down, take on that final set.
5 to 10 laps. I think that is the marker that the 63 car might be looking for, possibly just wanting to get everyone else to wear down their tires a little bit more to give that extra boost to the 63 machine. I got to look at the drivers that have already used the set. I think James Roth, Bo Brady, they might be stuck with what they've got, as well as Jason Hounshell and James Goshen. Those drivers that are running in the top 10, I think they're stuck with what they've got. They kind of just have to wait this thing out and hope more cautions come out so they can keep the positions that they have. And cautions are those drivers' best friends.
Right now, Blaine Akin and John Whitendorf, who have been up front most of the day, they are only on 10-lap older tires. So yeah, I agree with you. They would have to run a few more laps here to make sure that those tires are good and worn for Hank Steinmiller to be able to capitalize on the fresh tires, because when the 05 and the 33 and the 63 have been on equal tires, Hank Steinmiller hasn't really been able to get up there to him. So he needs that little bit of added advantage here in the closing stages to maybe try and snatch this victory away from those drivers. But Steinmiller and Roth, that's going to be the front row here. Both of these drivers on older tires, 46-lap old tires for Steinmiller, 65-lap older tires for James Roth. So it might be a bit of an interesting restart here for the fresh tires behind them, as Steinmiller's going to elect the top side. He'll have Blaine Akin behind him on this restart.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of tactical restarts here and where you're placing yourself, and it looks like Steinmiller wants to try to control that outside lane, which is now going to be giving an opportunity here for Akin to hold strong and possibly get up to second place, but he's got to get hard on the brakes, which is now going to be possibly making it 3 wide, but here comes the 05. Roth able to hold off from hitting the 05, but here comes Blaine Akin hard onto the inside, trying to get by, and Whitendorf on the outside, kind of getting pushed up, as now coming through turn number 4, it's going to be Blaine Akin on the inside.
Roth having a lot of trouble holding that inside line. He almost went up into Blaine Akin last lap. He almost got up into John Whitendorf over in 3 and 4. Kind of a moving roadblock right now for drivers. 4th place on back. Battle for the lead, though. Akin to the inside of Hank Steinmiller. Steinmiller battling back on that top side. He'll edge him at the start-finish line.
Whitendorf's getting frustrated. He's trying to get by all of these drivers on older tires as fast as possible so he can stay with Akin. And Roth's going to get out of shape, but here comes Gerald Campbell on those fresh tires as well. He's been involved in a couple of wrecks, now up to 4th place.
Yeah, we all got a caution.
Anthony Granary going to be spun around on the backstretch, and it looks like multiple other machines possibly involved in this thing.
Caution's going to fly for the 13th time here tonight. You can see that the rear bumper is kind of hanging, flapping off of that number 16 machine. We'll go back and see what happened after a dogfight up inside of the top 5.
It looks like it all starts with James Goshen, and I chuckle because I thought for a second Jeff Green was involved in this thing. Luckily was able to avoid it, but certainly could have been involved. But Goshen coming out of corner number 2 gets into Jake Hounshell, and the rest just keeps piling up behind him.
Yeah, it was Christopher Morris Jr., Cooper Johnson, as well as I believe the other machine was the
16.
16, you're right. Yep, they all stacked up there into the back of the 85 machine, and a lot of front-end damage there, especially to Christopher Morris Jr. and Cooper Johnson. And the one area of the car that you do not want to have the damage of all things is that front end. I mean, you don't have to have the prettiest car to win at a short track, but you certainly need that engine.
And I talked about how it was going to be about 20 laps to go when Hank Steinmiller is going to want those tires. Well, you just got those 4 fresh tires. Should be one of those drivers is going to be making a hard charge up front. Looks like possibly Bo Brady also had a set to work with. We'll see what these drivers can do on the back half of the field. 10th on back, all have come in for either damage repair or for tires, and everyone else 17 lap old tires. It's James Roth, 71 laps on this set. I think this 4 might be saving for something, maybe with 15 laps to go. 10 laps is a little bit too far to try to make a push on the whole entire field, even if they're on older tires.
Well, the thing I'm wondering is we saw James Roth have some issues earlier on in this race, including a spin by his lonesome off of turn 4. Has he already used up both his sets? And so now he's kind of made his bed has to lie in that situation.
Possible here. I'm not completely sure. I can't remember if James Roth took a set before this one that he's on right now. I don't believe he did. But, man, this 4 machine certainly in a very rough predicament. 72 laps on this set of tires that he's on, while the rest of the field on 18 or fresher lap old tires. And this is going to be really interesting out of the 4, how he's going to react, because he's going to be on the outside. If he wheel spins, everyone behind him going to be such stalled out and not able to make any charges.
Well, when we were at the halfway point of this race, we had all 17 cars still out on the racetrack. Now we've got more drivers that are scored off the lead lap. James Goshen currently 1 lap down. Chris Morse Jr. getting involved in that wreck, falls a couple more laps down as he's now -9, still on pit road getting damage repaired. And AJ DeMarzo has sat on pit road for the last 20 laps getting damage repaired to his number 5 machine. So there'll be 13 drivers on the lead lap when we go back green. Blaine Akin and John Whitendorf, we saw some good battling between them and Gerald Campbell. Those 3 are your top 3 on this restart.
I'm getting a little bit excited. Peyton Hill, Kyle Johnson, first time we've seen them all race close to one another. It looks like they're going to be respectful so far. Blaine Akin already up to a huge lead, over 3 car lengths over Whitendorf at the moment.
Kyle Johnson trying to make his way around the older tires of James Roth. 3 wide further back, the Houndshell brothers. Jeff Green was the one that sent them up there in that 3 wide situation.
They're still slightly 3 wide, and that's going to be Steinmiller on the inside trying to make his charge up front. Just not able to get onto the throttle as both Houndshells are just stuck where they're at, not able to get moving either.
Steinmiller now waiting until this settles out. Oh, he's going to get into the back of Jake Houndshell. He's going to spin the 0-2. He gets to the inside wall as well. Caution's going to fly for the 14th time.
God, that's just, again, where there's not enough time to react in those moments. Even if you get into the brakes, you can't slow down enough when a car is getting that loose and starting to go in front of you. And Steinmiller, maybe a little bit impatient, but that is not the part of the track that you want to be bumping someone out of the way.
May not even be a case of a driver getting loose. It may be a case of a driver possibly getting tight with the car not wanting to turn. In order to compensate for that, you have to bail out of the throttle. There's no way the driver behind you, especially on fresh tires, is going to get that memo.
Yeah, it's just a struggle for these drivers at the moment. They're really not able to make that charge and hold off for everyone else. And that is so concerning for the rest of the field, with the fact of drivers, if they have a set to work with of tires, there's just not enough time in this race with the way that the cautions have been coming out. You cannot make a move unless you're on that 3rd lane and you're able to carry more speed than everyone else.
And that's certainly not what Hank Steinmiller needed to have happen, because not only does that stifle his progress through the field, that's a couple more laps that are going to get ticked off under pacing that he could have used under green flag conditions with his fresh tires.
Yeah, certainly was something that these drivers were thinking, hey, there's a chance for us to make a charge here, and now they're stalled out, stuck, and just waiting for this race to come to an end. Because looking at the drivers that still have fresh tires to work with, Bo Brady might be able to make a charge, but he's got such heavily damaged vehicle, and everyone else behind him, they're all pretty damaged and haven't been up front at all. We'll see if Steinmiller still has a car to work with here, but he's back in 11th place. A lot of cars to get by. This might be just for the drivers that are up front. How well can they stay where they're at?
The thing of it is, too, I think that all these cautions coming out, this is only just helping Blaine Akin, because not only has he been really good with his restarts, but he also has these laps where he is not having to defend his race lead. The laps are ticking down at a measly 50 miles per hour. I think guys like John Whitendorf and Gerald Campbell, they've shown what they're capable of doing on older tires and on the long run. If they had a long enough run, they might be able to get up there and do something with Blaine Atkin. But right now, with having these restarts at his disposal, it's playing into the hands of the 05.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these drivers have to recognize when the pace car drops down, you got to take off. That's when Blaine Atkin, he just launches off so much faster and waits until the very first moment that he can to get going. You know, at some point he's going to try to throw you off by waiting and make sure that you have to back off, then he'll go. But those mind games are going to continue on. If I was running in second place, I would take off immediately once I see that pace car dip down low.
James Goshen gets the free pass under this caution, so 14 drivers will be back on the lead lap when we go back green, which looks like it will be with 10 to go if the lights go out atop the pace car this time. Blaine Atkin, the race leader, John Whitendorf second, Gerald Campbell in third, James Roth in fourth, Kyle Johnson fifth, and it's Peyton Hill, Jeff Green, Jason Hounshaw, Bo Brady, and Cooper Johnson, the top 10. The interesting thing about tonight here, Sam, is normally we end up going to a short track, and there's 1, 2, 3 drivers that we pick out, and they avoided issues. That's why they end up finishing well. I don't think there's a single driver in the field here tonight that hasn't been involved in some incident in some way, shape, or form.
Maybe John Whitendorf. That's the only driver I could think of. We've seen Blaine Atkin get involved in quite a few debacles and everyone else behind him. So here we go. Green flag up in the air. And John Whitendorf was able to stay close-ish, but still the gap so massive. Gerald Campbell going to be trying to make a move, but it's going to be Peyton Hill on the outside, making a couple of passes for that 84 machine and try to get by the 4, and will do so up to 4th place.
And we have contact. Kyle Johnson and Jeff Green, they made contact in turn 1. It carried all the way over down the back straightaway. May continue here on this next lap as they're still nose to tail. Brady gets around this. Steinmiller gets around this. This is the Hornet's Nest for around the 6th position.
Steinmiller just went from 12th up to 8th place and now up to 7th. Steinmiller, he might be damaged after that last caution, but still has plenty of speed. The only issue, he's running out of time, and right now 2.2 seconds back from our leader.
Wow, James Roth nearly looped it around off turn 4, and the caution is going to come out. It's Christopher Morse Jr., I believe. No. Check that. It's, I believe.
AJ.
Yes, the 5 of DeMarzo.
Looks like it's going to be a self-spin. Yeah, coming out of 4, same spot. We've been seeing cautions almost every single race. And you know who hates this the most? It's got to be Steinmiller. He's got to be hating this and also liking it because now it restacks everyone up. But he now, there's not a lot of laps that are going to be left here. That's about 4 or 5 laps that are going to be ticked away very quickly, and now going to be putting us in probably a 3-lap shootout to finish out this race.
The only good thing I could see out of this situation for Hank Steinmiller is he is going to be restarting on the inside line. When the caution came out, he was running in 7th, so he would start on the inside of row 4 on this restart, an opportunity to be able to take advantage of those fresh tires. However, though, maybe he would have wanted the outside line because we saw how Peyton Hill sent it into the corner of turn 1 with those fresher tires and actually picked up a couple of positions.
Yeah, I mean, James Roth was kind of being a block at one point, which then caused everyone to be battling side by side. The biggest thing, though, is we've been seeing the flip-flop of drivers having to restart side by side and being stacked up. And we might be seeing a restart here where they're single file. We'll have to wait and see what they change it up or if they stay stacked. But that could be another factor because if they're single filed out, that is so much more space that these drivers are going to be stacked up by. Because right now, Steinmiller, with them being single filed up, he's over about almost 3.5 seconds back, which is further than he was when that caution initially came out.
Well, this is why you run all the laps. Talked about Randy Koking back in qualifying, how he may not have the best of luck, but at least he stays out there until the end of the race. And well, he was the recipient of the lucky dog under this caution because DeMarzo brought out the caution. Christopher Morse Jr. sits on pit road, and Koking is going to bypass both Christopher Morse Jr. and A.J. DeMarzo here in these 2 laps, moving from 17th up to 15th place.
And this is why we see Randy Koking in the top 20 of points. It's this just mental fortitude to keep racing, even if you start off on a bad note and trying to just grab a couple of positions here or there at the end of these races.
Green flag should come back out here, I believe, with an in-scheduled green-white checkered. I believe lap 149 is when we'll go back green. So Prepare for maybe the most chaotic restart of the night because the final checkered flag of the G-Force Grand National Series is on the line.
You got a lot of drivers hunting for their second win this season. Gerald Campbell trying to capitalize with possibly his fourth win of the season. And then you've got Payne Hill, Roth, and they're trying to get their first win, as the drivers are going to be, believe, stacked up, and they are. We're racking them up for this chance here. Payne Hill going to be on the outside. But if we do have a caution that comes out before the white flag does, we will have one attempt at a green-white checkered. And I've got a feeling with all the drivers that are in the middle of the pack and how aggressive and how frustrated they've been, we're going to be seeing that green-white checkered here.
Two drivers with the freshest tires are 6th and 7th. Bo Brady in the 20, Hank Steinmiller in the 63. Do they have enough time to work to the front? Master of restarts this season, Blaine Atkin going to lead him back to green. Whitendorf again tried to time it, almost did, but Atkin gets away.
Yeah, he's going to be losing that time, but here comes Payton Hill on the outside. Got to be moving from 4th and trying to get up to 2nd place if possible, but just not able to get the run. John Whitendorf has a chance here if he can try to stay low, but Blaine Atkin, such a great restart for himself, coming out of 4. White flag going to be flown up in the air.
Oh, there's some sheet metal flying off at turn 4. James Roth gets spin on the front straightaway. Still remaining green. We're racing back to the checker flag here. Beating and banging. They're still wrecking off of turn 2. Jeff Green with contact with Steinmiller.
And it's going to be Blaine Atkin after the woes. He's finally going to get his second win of the season here at North Wilkesboro.
Blaine Atkin, pole to win, coast to coast here tonight, but a few bumps in the road along the way. But he will capture the final checkered flag of the season. That was Cooper Johnson up against the outside wall. He was the end result of the beating and banging between Jeff Green and Hank Steinmiller. Steinmiller crossing the line backwards. Absolute calamity there on those final 2 laps.
It was that little hitch that I was talking about that's on the backstretch that made Cooper Johnson and Steinmiller really explode into going have to drive backwards. But man, what a race up front. You knew Blaine Atkin, with the restarts that he'd been having, he had the best opportunity to win this race and gets it done.
And Blaine Atkin had to work his way up to the front a couple of times. He ended up coming down pit road, giving up track position for tires, had to work his way through the field, got called for a restart violation and had to EOL, work his way back up to the front again. But end result is that 0-5 capturing his second checkered flag of the season. Let's go back now as he's done doing his burnouts here in front of these North Wilkesboro fans. We're going to take a look first at what happened to James Roth, and that's a tough break. I mean, this guy was about to finish the race on 90-lap old tires, possibly in the top 10, but it all went wrong on the front straightaway.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that it's going to happen with older tires, is you're going to be pushing it so hard, and the slight contact that's going to be getting him loose there by Bo Brady, and great job trying to get that car back looking the right way, but that's just a fact of hard racing there at the end. You got drivers that are going to be pushing it as hard as they can. A little contact that's going to happen. It might help some drivers, and it's going to hurt most.
I also noticed that sheet metal I saw flying up there in turn 4 was contact between Hank Steinmiller and Kyle Johnson, and then was sent up into the air off the nose of Cooper Johnson, who we're about to look at, involved in this wreck on the back straightaway on the final lap.
Yeah, I mean, these drivers all just trying to gain everything they can into these corners, and
you
certainly
talked about that area on the back straightaway, that opening in the outside wall. Cooper Johnson came close to hitting that 45-degree angle.
Yeah. Some drivers able to get their frustration out after crossing the line and just sending it into corner number 1 after the checkers were waving. But I mean, Seth, that's pretty much how a lot of these drivers have been feeling most of the season. They've been trying to keep it cool, calm for most of it, but Dover kind of showed a little bit of frustration for some of the drivers that really weren't able to battle for a championship. And then here today, just caution after caution and really not able to get into any type of a groove or rhythm. And this really landed into Blaine Atkin's hands with the fact that the restarts were so dominant by the 0-5 all year long. And that's what most likely gave him the win here.
And the thing of it, too, we kind of got the sense when we looked at the schedule that we were going to see something like this in the finale as well, whether the championship was on the line or not, because you put drivers out there 4 straight short track races. You know that something's going to have to give. Rivalries are going to be made and scores are going to be settled when you get to that final race of the season.
I mean, that's what you get with these Grand National cars, is the fact that you don't know what you're going to get sometimes. If it's going to be clean racing all the way through, or if we're going to be seeing a lot of cautions popping up. I think this was probably one of the most cautions we've had all season long, but this race certainly was a fun one to watch from the top to the bottom, and you really had no idea who was going to win this thing. You knew Blaine Atkin was one of the fastest cars out here, but at one point you thought maybe he was done and he didn't have a chance to get back up front.
And you kind of wonder what if as well. I mean, the points were still rather close between Gerald Campbell and John Whitendorf last week. Granted, Campbell was able to pick up the victory, but Whitendorf wasn't even there that night, didn't pick up any points. The two of them here tonight, Whitendorf finished in second, Gerald Campbell finished in third. So you have to wonder how close was that championship going to be between the two of them if Whitendorf had raced last week at Dover. But speaking of Gerald Campbell, he survives the mayhem to finish third place tonight. Officially now is your champion here in the G-Force Grand National Series, and we're going to talk to him right now. Hey, Gerald, it's Sam and Seth up here in the FRM booth again. You got us?
Yes, sir, I do.
Oh, man, it looked like from up here that was an absolutely crazy race here for the finale. What was it like from the driver's perspective?
Felt like I was getting congratulations spins all around. So it was oh man, it was something. It was a loose setup, and which set up for a lot of different grooves to run. But man, it just you get someone that just slid too much, and it just was carnage from there. Yeah, it was. I wish I could have gotten up there. I felt like I definitely had some top speed, but you just even though you could make a pass, the cautions just were too frequent to be able to set anyone up for too many spots. So yeah, just it stinks in that area, but at least I got a top 3, so still finished strong for the end of the season. So it didn't look like it was a fluke for the championship. So yeah, happy with that. Good job to Blaine for winning the race. I should have pitted earlier. Even if with older tires, it would have made it was easier to hold them off if you could get a 2 or 3 car length jump on a restart. Just too hard to get it back up in 2 laps of green. So yeah, it is what it is, but I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on tires a little bit there, but how difficult was it trying to figure out and to manage your tires throughout this whole entire race? Because it looked like the drivers were so loose that the back end was constantly wanting to go, but once you got fresh tires, you were able to hold off a little bit better than those older tires were letting you.
The best I felt was whenever I pitted early and got out front and was leading for a while with older tires, and I was able to keep pretty good pace with guys with 40-lap newer tires, just because when you're back there, you have a tendency to just give it a little bit too much gas, and there's so much wheel spin in these back tires that that's what's getting you loose. It's just all the wheel spin. And if you're out front, you can just control your throttle. You got no one in front of you that you have to worry about their braking point or anything. So it almost evened out fairly quickly. So that was what I was afraid of with Blaine being out there for too long, was even though we had newer tires, eventually with us battling, trying to get to him, it was going to even the tires out pretty quickly, because the percentage of drop off for the amount of speed that you lost, the percentage of drop off on the tire actually rubber wise was not much. I mean, I did an 80-lap run and my one tire was only down to like 93. So 93%, which is nothing. So, it was just depending on who was able to stay out front, messed myself up in qualifying. So I had fun passing a lot of people though.
You talk about qualifying there, Gerald. When we talked to you during the qualifying session, you were mentioning the fact that you were expecting to see the lap times out there be really spread out, and we ended up seeing that very thing. A lot of drivers having different ways of how they approach the corner, whether they chose the inside or the outside line. As you mentioned early on in the race, you worked your way from the back to the front. We saw you do it a couple of times based off of pit strategy. How difficult was it here tonight to get yourself into a rhythm, working your way through the field? Just based on the fact it seemed like everybody had a completely different approach to the corner, and so you had an entirely different braking zone to have to work with, depending on who you were behind.
Me, I had such a fast car, and with these tires and how you couldn't just gas it, you could make the outside or the bottom side work. The bottom side was a little hard in the beginning, just because you can give it a little bit more gas on the outside, but I was making passes inside and out. It didn't really matter that. It was just being able, because it was tiptoe around these guys. You couldn't just blow by them. as you saw a couple times when I got spun around. So you couldn't just blow by nobody. You had to tiptoe and not get too close, because if they get loose, you're getting taken out. Luckily, no damage on my end from a couple of those incidents, but yeah, the track was just, it wasn't the track's fault, and it wasn't the tires' fault. It was just the product of this being the last race and everyone just trying to go out for the win. So no one was giving each other much room, and no one was really giving each other any time. if you got loose, it was all right. You had your chance. Get out of my way. So it was just one of those situations where just with how it was playing out, that with it being the last race of the season, this is kind of what to be expected.
Well, Gerald, we knew it after Dover. We knew it coming in tonight in North Wilkesboro, but the checkered flag has finally fallen. It is official. You are the champion for the G-Force Grand National Series. Congratulations. We're now going to give you the opportunity for some shout-outs.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Yeah, that's why I went with the Jeff Gordon paint scheme. He was always king at these these old style point systems where it was all season long, and just being a front runner and just being consistent, just wearing people out with the consistency of just being up front. So I took that mentality, put it into a paint job, and got it out on track, and for the most part played it to a T as to how I feel Jeff Gordon would have probably done it. So just excited that I got a championship in this league. I'm happy to put that into the belt. Championship there, shown that I can go to each asset of short tracks, big track, doesn't matter, and be a contender. I felt like I did a pretty good job at being able to prove myself into whatever asset that I needed to put myself into, whether it be for short runs or long runs. So other than that, thank you guys. I always say you guys do a fantastic job up there. Always enjoy listening to your guys' broadcasts over. And if anyone stuck around to watch the race, thank you guys. Thanks to all my competitors that I race out here with. A lot of these guys are, that you race really hard with, and there's a lot of respect. Sometimes it doesn't show whenever it's a short track, but there's a lot of respect out there. So other than that, thanks PRC, got them a championship in the league. First championship for this league for that team. So hopefully we can go into the 87 cars for next season and be able to just keep rolling with it.
That's Gerald Campbell. He finishes out the season with a third-place run, 3 wins on his championship season here in the G-Force Grand National Series. Congratulations once again on a great way to end out the year there, Gerald, and enjoy your championship.
Guys, appreciate it.
And let's now get our runner-up finisher here tonight, John Whitendorf. Hey, John, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Got you loud and clear.
And we saw that your car maybe was the best one to hook the bottom all race long. And we saw you on those last couple of restarts almost time it perfectly to keep touch with the 0-5. What little more did you need to be able to battle with him in the closing stages?
We needed some more green flag laps. Not very good on the restarts tonight. And all the quick cautions weren't doing any favors for me. So that's really the biggest thing, is more green flag laps.
Yeah, I mean, those green flag laps would have been so nice. Did you feel like you were ever able to get into a rhythm? I mean, with all the cautions that were coming out, because it seemed like you were able to make those moves for a lot of those drivers in the middle of the pack, but once you got up front in the top 3, there just wasn't a lot of time for you to get up there.
Yeah, I mean, we're up front and leading for a little bit, and it seemed like we're holding our own, but just all the cautions just killing us tonight.
John, obviously we know you wanted to end out the season with your second trip to victory lane, but I mean, here tonight, it kind of looked like a lot of drivers struggled. A lot of drivers got hit with some penalties or got involved in wrecks or found themselves mired back in traffic. Your car looked relatively clean. With the chaos that happened out here tonight, how were you able to keep that thing from getting any damage?
Yeah, I mean, just we're up front most of the night, and that played a big part, I would say. We never pitted off cycle or anything for the most part. We didn't pit off cycle and get stuck in the very, very back, so that definitely helped a lot.
Well, John, congratulations on ending out the season on a high note there. Second place here tonight. We saw you go to victory lane earlier on this year at USA Speedway, and up there in the top 3 in points for the season as well. So congratulations on that. We're now going to give the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Yeah, just as always, thank Chris for throwing us together. Everybody else that we had some good racing with all season. Hopefully we'll see him next season.
That's John Whitendorf, second place here tonight at North Wilkesboro. Once again, congratulations, John, on a great way to close out the season, and we look forward to seeing what you do in the upcoming year.
Yep, thank you.
And down to victory lane we go, coast to coast here tonight at North Wilkesboro for tonight's winner, Blaine Atkin. Hey, Blaine, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yes, sir, I do.
And we saw that thing was on rails in qualifying, and we saw you really be good on those restarts during the race, but a couple of times we saw you have to work your way from the back to the front. Looked like mayhem. What was it like from your perspective?
Yeah, it was definitely crazy. I knew for sure I had to save my stuff while working my way up through the field, and just can't be happy enough that I won North Wilkesboro.
Yeah, I mean, Blaine, you just always are so fast on these restarts, and when you're either in the back half of the field or up front, what is it about these restarts that you just always get each and every week?
I don't know. Be honest, I think I just kind of read the restarts and see whatever everyone's doing there, and I just kind of follow suit and try to figure out what they're doing.
You know, Blaine, I was kind of likening this track and the way that the corners are to two tracks that we were at earlier on this season. Nashville, the season opener, and Richmond. You dominated both of those races, winning the race at Richmond. Did this feel similar to you to those two racetracks? And if so, what type of tricks from those two racetracks were you able to apply here tonight to North Wilkesboro?
Oh yeah, them two tracks are definitely pretty dang similar to North Wilkesboro. The biggest thing I realize is using the less brake, because the more brake you use, that more the right front wears off on iRacing.
Well, Blaine, coming into tonight, we only had two other drivers that had gone to victory lane multiple times. You add your name to that list here tonight with your second win of the season. Congratulations. We're going to turn the microphone over to you now for some shout-outs.
Yeah, I want to thank SP Carburetors for all their work in real life, building the best carburetors probably out there. Smartway Motorsports for giving me the chance to drive for their team. We're always looking for more sponsorships in real life and stuff, because we're running the full CRA street stock schedule this season, and we're hoping to do pretty dang well in there.
Well, that's Blaine Atkins. What a way to cap off the season here with his second trip to victory lane, winning the Wilkes County 150 at North Wilkesboro. Congratulations, Blaine. Go enjoy your victory.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So the curtain comes down on another season here, Sam. The Grand National Series is finally over. Gerald Campbell crowned champion. Blaine Atkin wins the season finale. But, I mean, we knew coming into tonight with the championship no longer on the line and just the final checkered flag of the year that it was going to be hectic. And there's no doubt about it. North Wilkesboro definitely delivered a crazy one where maybe even up to 20 to go, we didn't know who was going to win this thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was a complete shock of who was going to get this thing done. Those late cautions really solidified that it was going to be Blaine Atkin getting this win here tonight. But, I mean, the whole entire season, it was Gerald Campbell and John Whitendorf, always so close to one another. And that's what we saw here tonight. Second and third for both those drivers. And you always got to throw up the what ifs. What if John Whitendorf showed up last week? What would have the championship battle would have looked like here tonight? But certainly, congratulations to Gerald Campbell. And I know a lot of these drivers are now going to be setting up for the G-Force Vintage Cup Series that's going to be starting in the middle of February. And a lot of them are going to be trying to figure out how to cycle from this of the natural. Well, I cannot speak here with the ARCA cars to then moving to the 87 machines.
I'll tell you one thing as well. I think that maybe this was a good experience for some of these guys. A lot of them we didn't see take part in the 87 series earlier last year. And a thing that we heard a lot here tonight and at a lot of the short tracks and the mile and a halves we were at this season was loose. Well, we know that those 87 cars are loose. So we may end up seeing some of these guys that may take part for the first time in the 87 series be able to maybe adjust a little bit quicker than they would have had they not taken part here in the Grand National Series.
Yeah, and who is going to be a new driver to come in and possibly, switch things up? I mean, here for this series in the ARCA cars, Jacob Putman stole that first race. That was the only race that he showed up for, but was able to steal it. Middle of the season, we saw some of the luminary drivers of Shane Terrian coming in, stealing some wins away. And now the question is, who are going to be those drivers that try to steal some wins for those drivers that are racing for the championship? in the Vintage Cup Series, and it's going to be exciting racing to be seen for sure.
Well, the Grand National Series champion Gerald Campbell coined the phrase consistency is what won him that championship. No doubt about that, as he finished out the season with 3 trips to victory lane, the most consistent driver on the year, and that number 25 DuPont Chevrolet is going to be your champion here tonight at North Wilkesboro. Blaine Atkins celebrates still in victory lane. And we are now done with the Grand National Series here for the G4 Sim Racing Series. Sam, it's been a long season, but it's been an exciting one, and what a way to cap it off. Appreciate you joining me here tonight and for this entire season overall.
It's always a pleasure, Seth, to be up in the booth with you.
Hope everybody enjoyed our coverage here tonight. Again, G4 is going to have their Vintage 87 series coming up. That's going to be a good one. If you didn't see the first season, go back and rewatch that. It'll give you a little preview of what to expect when we get to the second full season. For Samuel Dyer, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.